Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and a very warm welcome to Edwards Air Force Base for the United States Air Force Test Pilot School Change of Command Ceremony. My name is Major Robert Steigerwald, and I am honored to serve as your narrator for today's ceremony. For the purposes of military protocol, this is considered an indoor ceremony. Military members should stand at attention during the national anthem and should not salute. We invite our civilian guests to participate by standing and placing their right hand over their heart. During today's ceremony, Brigadier General Matthew W. Heiger, Commander, 412th Test Wing, will preside over the United States Air Force Test Pilot School Change of Command, at which Colonel Sebrina Pabon will relinquish command of the Test Pilot School to Colonel James M. Valpiani. Before we start today's program, we would like to take this opportunity to recognize the distinguished and special guests in attendance. Please hold your applause until everyone has been introduced. Brigadier General Heiger's wife, Mrs. Leslie Heiger, attending virtually. Colonel Pabon's husband, Mr. Dallas Smith. Colonel Pabon's sister, Mrs. Selena, and her brother-in-law, Mr. Tom Klippenstein, and their children, Stephen and Grace. I would also like to welcome from the Air Force Test Center, Colonel James Doyle, Mobilization Assistant to the Air Force Test Center Commander. From the 412th Test Wing, Mr. Dan Osborne, Senior Technical Director. Chief Master Sergeant Justin Stoltzfus, Command Chief Master Sergeant. From the Test Pilot School, Lieutenant Colonel Mary Ann Carlin, Deputy Commandant. Mr. David Van Hoy, Technical Director, and his wife, Mrs. Halida Van Hoy. We are also grateful that many other current and former senior leaders, colleagues, friends, and coworkers have come to join us today. We welcome you all. Ladies and gentlemen, please join us in a round of applause for all of our distinguished guests. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand for the arrival of the official party and ruffles and flourishes. Remain standing for the presentation of the colors, the singing of our national anthem by Mrs. Julia Powers Teal, and the invocation by Chaplain Juan Salonga.
Say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the
Chaplain Salonga will now deliver the invocation.
Let us pray. Almighty, ever-living God, giver of life and Lord of all, today we come to you with deep gratitude in our hearts for all the gifts and graces you give us each day. It is an honor to call you in behalf of our military community and to know that we not only can, but are invited to ask your presence in our midst. Eternal and merciful God, we invoke your blessings on this ceremony. Those who are participants and those who are gathered here, especially the families and acquaintances of Colonel Sebrina Pabon and Colonel James Valpiani, to witness the passing of the color. As Colonel Pabon comes to the end of her tenure as commander, we look back and are thankful for her concern for her troops, for her example as a leader, and for her loyalty to her superiors, her peers, and her subordinates. Lord, it has been a privilege working with her. Thank you for allowing her to come our way and be with her in the next phase of her life. We ask you to grant our incoming commander, Colonel Valpiani, the gifts of wisdom, courage, and strength. May his time of command in our team be one of blessing for him and for all the soldiers he will be serving and leading. May he always strive to assist every member of his unit to grow and develop, so that each can be the person that you intended that one to be. May he always have that humility and compassion to understand his subordinates, to know how to support them individually. May your spirit-loving God be near Colonel James to defend him, within Colonel James to refresh him, around Colonel James to preserve him, before Colonel James to guide him, behind Colonel James to justify him, and above Colonel James to bless him. Bless him with the grace and wisdom to know and to support the leaderships above him. We entrusted his leadership into your hands because you are God, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Amen.
Thank you, Chaplain Salonga, Mrs. Powers-Teal, and the Blue Eagles Honor Guard. Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. Today's change of command ceremony is deeply rooted in military tradition and dates back to the reign of King Frederick of Prussia. During this time, organizational flags were developed with color arrangements and symbols unique to each unit. When a change of command was to take place, the outgoing commander would pass the flag to the individual assuming command. This gesture was accomplished in front of the unit so all could see and witness their new leader assuming command. This symbolic tradition has survived through military history and will be a part of our ceremony today. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my great pleasure to introduce the 412th Test Wing Commander, Brigadier General Matthew W. Higer.
Thank you very much, Stig. Good morning, everyone. Phase lag is the enemy of handling qualities. All right. Good morning. Can you hear me back there? Okay, just checking. All right, so like all good war plans, this one didn't pass first contact either. I'll get to a theme that I was trying to flow through here, and then the person that I was trying to nudge along with that theme decided that she was going to get ahead of me by about, 14 hours. Is that about the right math? Thanks. Yeah, so any references to midwifery or doula or jumping on trampolines or other things like that, that was all for Natalie. And if you haven't heard yet, Natalie's not here because she's in the hospital creating a brand new Valpiani. So let's give her a loud enough round of applause and congratulations that she can hear us. Stig, thanks for being the narrator. I want to go through a few other debts of gratitude here, and thanks as well. These ceremonies don't just happen. The prep for them, the build-up for them, the execution, the setup, the teardown. It takes a team. It takes a family, and there are a lot of people involved here. They promised me they were going to stay because they usually skedaddle, and when somebody at the podium says thank you, they're long gone. Everybody look to your left, and let's give the Blue Eagles Honor Guard a real loud shout out for all they do. It's an incredible team of volunteers, and many of you don't know that this is not their primary mission, and their primary mission isn't at promotions or retirements either. Their primary mission is to pay last respects to American servicemen around the Southern California area, and that's the reason they exist, and this is their fun stuff. But they have a very solemn and a very serious mission, and we greatly appreciate all that you do and everybody else on the team. And thanks for sticking around and complying with my minor request. You're cleared off. Enjoy the rest of your Friday and have a great weekend. We love the Blue Eagles Honor Guard very much. Another debt of gratitude, please. Chaplain, it's always great to have close pair support called in. Thank you very much. It's always wonderful to hear our nation's anthem sung in such an awesome voice and awesome rendition. Thank you as well for that. And then to everybody that had a part setting this up or is executing it right now, you're going to be humble. You're not going to say anything, but you know who you are. So where's the TPS front office staff? Right? Where are they? So somebody rat them out. Okay, there's 2. I know there's more than 2. There's 3. Poco, who am I missing? Okay, all right. Yeah, I see them. You guys rock. Thanks for getting us here. It doesn't also happen without support from PA, audio-visual, maintenance for letting us use their hangar and stop work while we're doing this. So to everyone that had a hand in this, from the facility managers to the person that wrote the script, to the narrator, to the proffer, to everybody else, thank you. Thank you for contributing. Thank you for playing your vital role in this team and this family effort here on this ceremony today. Thank you very much. Everybody, please join me. You heard the list of names. I'm not going to rattle them off again, but I do want to give some special shout-outs to some distinguished visitors that are with us today, or maybe VIPs if you don't want the distinguished crowd or the call like Kim. Yeah, so Dallas, it's been great having another Jeep lover on the street. My biggest regret is that we haven't gotten to dive into the other thing that we evidently have in common, and that would be port. So I look forward to catching up maybe sometime in Southern Nevada with you in the not-too-distant future. We can debate over whether it's some shade of purple or yellow that's the proper color for a Jeep while we're deciding if it's the white or the red port that's the better. And I look forward to those conversations. It's been great having you on the street. Thanks for your support to POCO. This has been like an easy 3 years to be a commander, right? Nothing going on, no changes in the world. So you had an easy job, but you did it exceptionally well. And thanks for what you do for our nation in your own right and all the work that you're going to take forward on that. To the rest of the Pabon family with us, thank you for traveling. It is great to see you, too, at all these ceremonies. One of my big regrets 3 years ago was that we didn't have a chance to have this crowd and to spend a lot more time together. I appreciate you being here today just as much as I appreciated you being here then. Please take back from me to the generation that didn't travel for this, but that did to the last, that I'm so proud of her and what they have imbibed in her that made her successful as an officer, as an engineer, as a leader, and as a commander. Thank you very much for being here, and I'm so glad you're here. And then for those of you that don't know, POCO has a large family that she doesn't share any DNA or a wedding ring with, and there's 2 representatives here. So Kim Anderson, it is great to see you, and I don't know that I've ever met your bride, but he's awesome, and you must be awesome too. Thanks for being a part of the larger POCO family. And I appreciate you traveling. And then to the extended family of POCO that's traveled, a lot of them from Southern Nevada, I'm glad you made it. You got a lot to be proud of, and you're not getting her back quite yet. I'll talk about what she's going to do between now and her promotion to civilian here in a little bit. All right, let me pivot to the, I'll say Team Valpiani. We already shouted out the newest one, but can the 4 of you, like, do this? right? Are you excited? Yeah? I mean, imagine this as a family story, right? He's going to walk out onto some family reunion someday, and his 5, 6, 7, or 8 kids, I don't know where you guys are going to stop the number, but he's going to walk out and say, yeah, the day that she was born, I was supposed to be working on my speech and my remarks and getting a good night's sleep because it was going to be a challenging thing, and come on. Anyway, but the great news is you won't forget this date because you'll always have that reminder on the day prior. And I would predict that that young lady probably ought to at least have some involvement in her adult life with this school because she's connected to it literally from birth. So I could not be more excited about the alignment there, and it does diffuse a lot of my jokes, but I'll try to walk over those. You four are great. Glad you're in the neighborhood. Glad you're back. I'm so glad you have a happy, healthy baby sister, and I'm so thrilled that your mom did very well also. I want to highlight a couple quick things here that Leslie and I wished for Natalie. We wished her luck, and then we wished her more that she wouldn't need it, and evidently she didn't. So that worked out well. And I do want to take a quick detour. Fangs, and this is for these 4 as well, 5 that will eventually hear this. Our nation is actually really blessed that you and Natalie got a bit hypoxic climbing Mount Kilimanjaro, 8, 10, 12, 15 years ago, whenever it was. And I say that because there's now, my remarks say 4, but there's now 5 next-gen Valpianis, which are going to be awesome Americans, and it is great for you to help us increase the mass here in the 0.4 billion that are going to compete with 1.4 billion going forward. And I'm thrilled for you, and I'm glad that you and Natalie met. I know your family's a lot better for it, but our nation is better for it too. So congratulations to both of you. And I know a thank you to Natalie is insufficient, but it would have sufficed had she been here this morning. So please pass that on. Okay. So what I want you to do, because this is a schoolhouse, and I'm an alum of the cadre here, but I'm also an alum of a couple other instructional organizations. If this were a briefing, I would have a clock, right? So I'll try to hold to that. And there would be a whiteboard behind me. And I would have objectives for our next little while. And then I would have an overview written on this whiteboard. And if you have done that as an instructor, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It's a way for you to pace your audience, and so they know how much longer they have to pretend to pay attention. Right, instructors? And then in the debrief, you can say, I wrote it down. Did you not actually read it? So pretend there's a virtual whiteboard behind me, an imaginary one. And our overview this morning is, in order, gratitude, compete with a C, a capital C, and an exclamation point. The next one down, the overview is POCO, followed by FANGS. And then the last one there is competitive advantage. And so in our overview, if I were in that briefing right now, I'd have the pens in one hand, and I would walk to that board, and I would go, check, by gratitude, because we said thanks. And that means we are at compete. So as I was structuring my remarks today, it hit me that not only have I been on this stage at this change of command before, this is my 4th one in a row. The other ones were in 2017, 2018, 2020. And I promise for those of you that were here in 2018, I'm really confident I won't need Tammy Rice seated right about there doing the smile. Jan's laughing because she remembers, right? Tammy Rice was telling me, "You smile, smile," because I was having a really hard time not breaking up. It was a tough handoff because I love the school so much, and I'm confident I won't have that event today. But a shout out to Tammy for helping me through that event, and a shout out to all of you that have been here for at least a couple of my TPS change of command remarks. In that remark, in that theme, however, the second time that I spoke at a TPS change of command, and it was outbound from the school in 2018, the theme that I wanted to push at a lot of folks that are in the school or that serve at the school, around the school, is that this is a special place. It's a special place, and if you don't feel it, if you don't understand that, if you don't resonate with that, you're not paying attention. And there will be moments for you, as there have been for me, where it'll hit you. And one of the things I vividly remember to this day, and I know I addressed it in 2018, Dave Van Hoy had a conversation as I walked out the front of the building to a yellow Jeep, not purple, And a shot had just gone off out of Vandenberg, and it was at sunset. So it was dark on the ground, light in the upper atmosphere. There's a vapor trail off a rocket out of Vandenberg, and it's highlighting the NF-104. I snapped a picture, texted it to Dave, and I subtitled it, "This is a special place." And he responded with, "Indeed it is." This is a special place. This is a special unit. These are special people, and we have a sacred mission in this school to continue that and propagate it forward. And I hope that you take that as seriously as I do. And if you don't, ask those that are in the school, and they'll be able to give you their story. That's the equivalent of mine, watching that in the upper atmosphere with the NF-104 outside the front of the school. So compete. The message that I need you to hear in the fourth speech, which is today, is based on a simple but a profound assertion that our nation and her allies and partners are in, and these words are intentional, an existential strategic competition for the first time in many of your lives. And the last time in my life we were in that was in the late 80s. I was a freshman in college. Our principal competitor, the Communist Chinese Party, or CCP, which is the governing organization of the PRC, the People's Republic of China, doesn't want us to think or feel the pressure of competition until their decisive advantages are a fait accompli. The People's Liberation Army in China have learned from history, a history that the United States has taught the world very well, that unless you have an overwhelming force, probably in all domains and probably using multiple instruments of national power, don't spark the ire of the American public, because you will lose, and you will lose badly. But it does take the spark of the ire of the American public. Better yet, they're thinking to themselves, and my message for you is, and this is echoing a little bit of Sun Tzu, if you can convince the American public to defeat itself, even better. Think about that. Our strategic adversary wants all 0.4 billion of us to fight amongst ourselves while they mature and field their forces. So I ask you, Americans, partners, and allies all, how's that going for them? We're not fighting it all amongst ourselves, right? And they're not fielding a credible military force, are they? They are. And if you'd like to hear how dire it is, I'd be happy to talk to you afterwards. It's real, and we need to feel that competition. It's a strategic competition, and it is existential. Let that settle in a bit, and let me give you a historical reference or a historical context. If that thought you haven't had before, and it doesn't make you feel, as you think about that, a little bit like too few of our predecessors felt in late 1941, it should. Perfect timing, because you're going to get to think on that resonating thought while we hear a JAFA start a beautiful airplane. Say it with me, Fangs, an F-16. So this is where I detour from my script and say I didn't actually want quiet hours to hear the flying. Engine runs on the ground? Maybe. Paul, how you hearing me? Yeah? You're going to tell me if you can't, right? Who am I going to pick on over here? Gracie. Hearing me? Okay. Let me know. I'll try and talk loud over the ground engine runs. Okay. So the 2022 National Defense Strategy in 4 lines, summarized in 4 lines, and I'm not going to be good at it, but let me try and summarize it. Our National Defense Strategy calls us out to build a resilient joint force and a resilient but also very productive defense ecosystem. 1. 2, deter the People's Republic of China, defer Russia, defer others that might choose to challenge us. 3, deter any and all strategic attack on the U.S., her allies, and partners from any source, in any domain, at any time. And 4, and this is the most important, defend the homeland, keeping in mind that we are paced by a competing multi-domain challenger in the People's Republic of China. With that in mind, for 1,262 days now, I've challenged all of us here at the Center of the Aerospace Testing Universe, also known as Takata 2. Sec check's good. I can tell who the F-16 aircrew are in the crowd. For more than 1,200 days here at Takata 2, I've been charging you and talking to everyone about compete, capital C, exclamation points. And when I say compete, if you envision badminton, a swim meet, soccer, football, even a math competition, you're not getting it right. When I say compete, I want you to think about not ever waking up to a morning like 7 December 1941. That's what I mean when I say compete. My point here is that we all must ensure that our kids and our grandkids are not coerced to use the yuan instead of the dollar. They're not compelled to read, write, or speak in Mandarin. My point is that the post-World War II rules-based order is under the largest threat it has yet known, and that existential threat is building, and it's a real challenge. So how about some data to support those assertions? The data fit well into a curve, and that data includes, that I'll give you today, is 2 big data points. The first is that 513 days ago, with the tacit approval of the PRC, love it, Russia invaded Ukraine. What does this have to do with China? It has to do with China's watching how we respond and how we react, because they're updating their plans based on that. Data point number 1. Data point number 2, the People's Liberation Army Rocket Forces. PLARF, I think is how I would say it. I love it. I love the sound of freedom, don't you? The People's Liberation Army Rocket Forces, 2 years ago, shot a hypersonic weapon into orbit, and then on their command, deorbited it, and it hit in their territory. Hypersonic weapon in orbit, deorbited on choice, at their choice. What does that mean? That means every target on the planet is under the kinetic umbrella of that weapon, including where you are sitting right now. Think about that. Those are my 2 data points. If that isn't enough to convince you that my hypothesis is probably worth thinking about, then ask for more, and I got plenty more, and they're not all classified. All right. In that environment, in that existential, strategic, competitive environment, we have to move out. We need leaders, we need teams, we need families, we need to emphasize our competitive advantages. And one of our competitive advantages is leadership. There are 2 leaders that share the stage with me today, arguably 3 and 4, but 2 that are seated. Next thing on my virtual overview of the brief is POCO. JT, our wing historian, tells me that POCO is the 45th TPS commandant, and today is the day that she gracefully relinquishes command of the best colonel's job in the Department of the Air Force. And yes, best is biased, but it is a fact-based opinion, and I think POCO agrees with me, and Fangs will soon as well. POCO, during your 3 years, this team that you've so aptly led flew more than 20,000 flight hours in dozens of unique airplanes with a grand total of, everybody say it with me, 0 Class A or B mishaps. That doesn't happen by accident. Unfortunately, with safety, we don't know what the margin was, but it was positive. That is not a birthright. See my puns? That is not a foregone conclusion, and your next commander, Fangs, is gonna have a lot of thoughts on that. Don't rest on your laurels as you haven't rested on your safety laurels for the last 3 years. That's a lot to be proud of. 20,000 flight hours represent approximately 300 new Air Force, Department of the Air Force test pilots, test combat systems officers, flight test engineers, and a whole bunch of joint and international flight test partners, and now including Guardians. Shout out. Courage, all right, yeah. In July 2020, the school had graduated 0, when she took command, 0 Space Test Corps students. POCO inherited the Space Test Corps stand-up vision from 2 2-stars, one of them the then Air Force Test Center commander, and got a just do it order from those 4 collective stars. She secured and then helped execute $1.3 million to develop the space domain specific curriculum, facilities, hardware, instructors, and then piled that on top of the existing test fundamentals. She led the team that added specificity to that vision. She empowered her TPS team to make it a reality. During your tenure, the Vice Chief of Staff of the Air Force and the Vice Chief of Space Operations signed a 4-star MOA, cementing and committing to an enduring partnership between our services and quite literally defining the SECAF's mantra of one team, one fight. And it happens here. Now think about the conditions that she and you, the whole team, fought with and under the last, 2-point-something years. And I'm not gonna say the word, but you know what I'm referring to. From early 2020 through May of this year, it was a real obstacle. In my 3rd speech at a TPS Change Command in the base theater in 2022, which literally only had me, Poco, Cujo, no guide on, no narrator, a couple family members in the 500-person thing, all separated by how many feet? 6, right? From that starting point, you continue to move. You graduated all the classes on time, you got space test course up and running, and you've done a couple other things that are worthy of accolades amongst many that I don't have time for. You inherited virtual classrooms, you pushed their operationalizing of them, you did online learning, you moved out on this Slack thing, which I still can't spell or use. You did stay-at-home, no-fly days for months, and you still graduated both those classes on time. The drawbacks are many, and unfortunately one of the biggest ones, you lost a lot of the awesomeness of the human interactions, hanging out with students, hanging out with your staff. That was stripped away from you and a lot of the folks in TPS that we have just slowly started to rebuild, and Fangs will turbocharge as well now that he's free of that obstacle. Poco, you and TPS, along with the rest of society, learn from that virtual reality, learn from that virtual environment, and we are better because of how you implemented those learning events and those learning moments in a once-in-a-century pandemic fight. During that pandemic fight, your TPS contributions to the U.S. competitive advantage, I talked about 300 new Airmen and Guardian test leaders. We talked about 24 high-impact test management projects. I also want to foot stomp a brand new, or new to us, X-62 Alpha, a 3-year, $30-ish million upgrade to a beautiful airplane with great capability. The first in our nation to actually fly in a relative combat environment, AI. Those are bold, those are legacy, and those are amazing accomplishments that this team knocked out of the park under your command. They have a lot to be proud of, you have a lot to be proud of, and you can walk up this stage with your head high today. Congratulations. Back to my board, you can picture it. Next one, Fangs, check. If you haven't read Fang's bio, you're wrong, read it. The first bio in there you should ignore. Read Fang's bio, I'm not gonna repeat it here. Note, and I'll note to you, that he actually did his TPS student time in a non-native language. I could never do that. It was hard enough for me to do it in English. Copy. He would tell me, yes, but the primary language in all TPS stuff is math, so you got that going anyway, but you're not Sanford, so I guess maybe isn't a love language for you, Natalie? Is that not quite? Okay. So he did his TPS at Epner. He's got a long and storied career, and this is just one more chapter. Fangs, you can consider this my day one welcome brief to TPS. So welcome, we're glad to have you. You got a lot of learning while you're running the show and learning and listening to the syllabus for the first time too. But you're gonna have a great wingman in that fresh eyes approach, because my replacement is not a graduate of U.S. Air Force Test Pilot School either. And in fact, he's never even been stationed here. That is an advantage. It's not a critique, it's an advantage. Fresh eyes bring fresh perspective. Fresh eyes given an opportunity to contribute and to be heard and to dialogue with will make it all a better place. And you and Beaker are gonna have that in spades. They're gonna hear it and need it from you, and you need to be not afraid to return that favor, that professional expectation of dialogue with both Fangs and Beaker as you build out on TPS Next. So I want to highlight one thing that some of you know, but all of you don't, but I need to get it publicly on the record right now. One of my big pushes to find a replacement that could potentially fill the shoes for Poco was find somebody that is an enterprise leader, respected by the enterprise like Poco is, that has an accelerating path forward. That is not as easy as you would think. And in September 21, while I'm TDY to the National Capital Region, I walk out of a building and guess who approaches me in the parking lot? Lieutenant Colonel James Valpiani. Sir, you got a minute? Super respectful. You bet, Fangs. What do you want to talk about? I'm a little presumptive here, but you know, I would be interested in working at TPS as my next job. You remember what the chaplain said about mantra from heaven in his prayer? I felt it right there. That was a crucial moment. That was an alignment that I took very seriously, and we've made it happen. And I'm glad you approached me with that conversation. I'm glad that literally my hopes were answered. And I'm so glad you are here to take over from Poco and accelerate this team moving forward. As I mentioned, Fangs brings with him fresh eyes. You need to listen to those fresh eyes. You need to answer his questions why. But you also need to let him know what your eyes see as well. And I promise he's going to listen and incorporate. And it will knock your socks off how quickly he can inculcate and incorporate what he is learning from you. Many of you heard me talk about how important a strong STEM education is to our nation today and in the future. Look at the number of STEM degreed humans our adversary, the People's Republic of China, produces per year. It's a sobering number. Fangs, among your many tasks as the TPS commandant, you are now on point for TPS STEM push to the nation. Just as an astronaut is, just as NASA is, just as all of the rest are, but you have a platform that must push that to the nation. The nation needs it. And you have a bigger role as well to fill as Alita's wingman in the local STEM part, because we just lost Sting. And those are really big shoes to fill. So there's a gap in formation with Alita on STEM. You're gonna rejoin there with your, 9 lives, 10 lives, because you don't need to sleep anyway, proof last night. And I charge you with that, and I look forward to seeing what you accomplish for the nation there. Fang's voracious appetite for understanding a strategic problem, exploring options to address it, robustly refining that plan after each and every piece of granular feedback, and then getting after that plan into execution is without peer. His clean sheet vision for the future of the flight test course with no hooks into ETC and STC is impressive. It's detailed, it's robust, but it still needs some work. And he needs you to talk to him about those connections and those synergies and those efficiencies. There's awesomeness in that vision that you have helped him build and he has refined based on what he's learned from you. But this is your unit now, and you need to move him out, and improving that unit is an important pillar. How do I know he can do that? 461st alums in here or attached, raise your hands. Yeah, I watched it happen there. The 461st is in a better place today because of that same process you did the last time you were here as a commander, Ed Edwards. All right, it's also vital to let you all know that Fangs will pay at least as much attention to the other 3 major performance areas as he will to improving the unit. Now, they're all connected, but it's important that we talk about the other 3 pillars. He will continue to optimize the safe, secure, effective, and efficient execution of the missions, plural, of this school, as we won't have the ability anytime soon to close the front doors for a complete overhaul. You're gonna have to literally adapt it while you fly it at speed, at altitude, and probably with the full passenger load on it as well. He's gonna continue to pour his heart and soul into leading people. And I see this in spades. I saw this in spades from Fangs while you were at the F-35 ITF, and I know you're gonna be able to continue it here. You're gonna drop right back in your highly proficient ways of advocating for resources, right on an edge most of the times that I observed, and that's the right posture you're gonna have to take here with this team as well. And then you're gonna have to be razor sharp and demanding as you enforce the stewardship of the resources that we give you, which you know already are not gonna be enough. All right, Fangs, that's the charge. I know you're up to the task, and I look forward to watching what you do. So my final message is to the school. It's to all of the school. It's to students, instructors, and staff. Students current and past, instructors current and past. and future. Staff, current and past and future. Remember that one of the ways that we compete as 0.4 million freedom-loving Western members of Western society, with a totalitarian regime with 1.4 billion, is we lean on our competitive advantages and incorporating diversity of thought, diversity of background, diversity of rank, diversity of opinion is one of those competitive advantages. But you can't just have it, you have to use it, you have to say it, and you have to include it. They don't do that in the PRC. That is Advantage America, Advantage West. All right, if you're on the staff and you didn't attend Wednesday, it was an all call, there will be a repeat. For those of you that were there, if you need to go back and watch the video, please do. There's a bigger message there. If you haven't seen it yet, I look forward to delivering that message to you in person. There's a lot of work to be done. There's a lot of washing of water over the lake bed that has to happen. Fangs is the right guy to help move that water around. But the water's there, and I need it to happen. The lake bed needs to heal because we need to use it again. Remember, staff, class, instructors past, present, and future, it's a team sport. TPS is a family. Life is a team sport. The better the team is, the better the debriefs the team has, the more you include all of the inputs from all the members, the better your performance will be. And this nation needs this school to max perform every time, every mission, every day, every student, in every domain. This school is the heart and soul within which the intellectual seeds of massive updates and massive upgrades happen. And there's a long list. Auto GCAS, AI, and on and on and on. That won't happen if you don't work together as a max performing team. Remember that you are a competitive advantage for our nation and our allies as we compete against the Communist Chinese Party. You must be fully successful. You have a no-fail, no-flinch mission, and we are all depending on you. So if I were to summarize this, my fourth speech at a TPS Change Command, I would summarize it with one word, and it would be compete. And remember, it's not compete on the fields of friendly strife. It's actually compete on the fields of strife, right now. And I need you to remember that. Please, our nation is counting on you. Okay, let's go to my virtual whiteboard or my imaginary whiteboard. Gratitude, check, thank you again. You have to compete. You have to take it seriously. You have to believe it's an existential moment, because it is. Check. Poco has done an amazing and commendable job. We look forward to seeing her promoting into civilian life. And between now and then, Kid is gonna love having you as his task rabbit. Check. Fangs, welcome back, brother. It's nice that you boomeranged out through NDU, National Capital Region, and it's great to have you back in the Desert Southwest. Check. And lastly, TPS, never forget you're a competitive advantage. I could not be more proud to be an alum of both the school and the instructor, and I could not be more excited to see where this organization goes under the leadership of Colonel Fangs Valpiani. Thank you very much.
Thank you, General. Thank you, General Higer. Colonel Pabon, the floor is yours, ma'am.
They knew I could never yell that loud, sir. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I would like to express my deepest gratitude and thanks to the distinguished guests, commanders, directors, senior enlisted leaders, and family and friends. Thank you all so much for being here, both in person and virtually. Thank you, Julia. Welcome to the front office team. You've signed up for a lot more, ceremonies going forward, so keep up the great work. Welcome. Father Salonga, thank you for the invocation, and of course the Blue Eagles Honor Guards that's always here to support all of our events. To Gracie and the Test Wing team that helped put this event together and enabled it to be watched by those near and far, thank you. Stig, Master Sergeant Gomez, thank you for your support as well. To my family, Mom and Dad, I'm sorry. Thank you so much for all of your support over the years. I would not be here today without all the love, guidance, and support you have given to me. You set the example to serve and to always do so with honor and integrity. Thank you. To Selena and Tom, thank you for your continued support. Stephen, Grace, wherever she went, thank you for being here. I really appreciate it. My family, Kim and Cheryl, you're always there for me. Thank you. And of course, to my husband, Dallas, thank you for joining me on this journey, for your constant support, encouragement, and unconditional love. I love you. After watching Grant yesterday, I wasn't going to do it, but I couldn't help it. All right. I would also like to thank all the Group CCs and directors who have served with me. You were my wingmen through this journey. Thank you for that. Specifically to the Palo Verde families and friends, thank you for ensuring we all took the time to get together outside of work as well. It meant a lot, and it was definitely good to decompress at times. To my Scorpion family, John and Jeff, thank you for welcoming me back with open arms and letting me never forget what Scorpion Pride meant. Greatly appreciate it. To my ride or die front office team, both past and present, thank you. No matter how busy we were, and no matter what challenges came our way, we got it done. To Brigadier General Higer, sir, thank you for your confidence and support to serve the school. There were definitely some challenges along the way, but I have learned a lot, and I am extremely grateful and humbled to be here. All right, now to the students. Please continue to work together and ask questions. It was not until I was in your seat that I figured out what I wanted to do when I grew up, and I wouldn't change a thing. Cherish every moment, even those days when you feel like you just can't get it all done. It was definitely intimidating, having never learned anything about airplanes or flying, to get in a Cessna and take aero courses for the first time. But take time to reflect on where you are at and what you're accomplishing, and keep pushing forward. And then when you go on to your air and space test assignments, don't forget the fundamentals and the lessons you have been taught. But still remember to ask questions and continue to learn along the way. To the men and women of TPS, it has been quite a journey. From the pandemic early days with mandatory masks and virtual learning and many other restrictions, thank you for your continued support to the school and to the mission. It was not easy for any of us. While others were home teleworking, you were here executing every day, and you all pushed through. You made sure we completed the courses on time. And not only that we even grew our mission to stand up the space test course and restart the enlisted test fundamentals course. You never let anything stop our forward progress. You continue to grow and modernize the school, and that is a testament to all of your dedication and support to the mission. Thank you. You pushed through with no additional manpower to successfully modify the NF-16D Vista into the X-62A Alpha. It's now the DoD's cutting-edge AI fighter test platform. You continue to modernize and update the curriculum, the flights, the control room capabilities, and everything to ensure that we remain the world's premier test pilot school. It takes a lot to keep this train on its tracks, and everyone across the school made that happen, and I thank all of you. It has been exciting to serve you and witness the continuous push to make improvements and adapt. You have demonstrated that in spite of challenging situations, we can all still work together to safely and effectively achieve our mission. Please continue to work together to create outstanding test professionals. These will be the leaders of our community in the future. We need them now more than ever. Continue to pave the path of excellence where knowledge is power. Having first lived at Edwards 30 years ago, I definitely never imagined I would be back here, not once, but twice. This is a special place for my family, and we are very grateful we had the opportunity to be part of the Edwards community again. Thank you all for your support and the opportunity to serve for you and with you. Colonel Valpiani, welcome. Congratulations to the best 06 job in the Air Force, to you, Natalie, and the kids. Take care of the team, and they will take care of you. Thank you all for your time. Godspeed.
Thank you, Colonel Pabon. General Higer and Colonel Valpiani, please join Colonel Pabon at center stage. Ladies and gentlemen, we will now proceed with the Test Pilot School change of command ceremony. Please stand. Attention to orders. Department of the Air Force, Headquarters, United States Air Force, Washington, D.C., Special Order Number GO 2320, dated 21 July 2023. Under the provisions of Air Force Instruction 51-604, by order of Brigadier General Matthew W. Higer, Commander, 412th Test Wing, Colonel Sebrina L. Pabon relinquishes command and Colonel James M. Valpiani assumes command as Commandant, United States Air Force Test Pilot School, effective 21 July 2023. Ladies and gentlemen, you may be seated. Ladies and gentlemen, the Commandant of the United States Air Force Test Pilot School, Colonel James Valpiani.
Well, good morning, everyone. What a day it's been for the Valpiani family. I don't think it gets much better than welcoming a brand new baby to the world and celebrating a change of command in less than 24 hours. Although we're a little worried that our new daughter's first act was to try to upstage this event, so we gotta watch out for her. But I don't think there's much doubt that I'm the luckiest person in the hangar right now. Hopefully everyone else got a little more sleep than I did, at least. Today's a very fitting occasion for gratitude, so I'd like to just continue with the theme that General Higer and Poco addressed a minute ago. I'd like to begin by thanking everyone who made this possible. So in particular, Gracie, Kirsten, and Julia, thanks so much. Not only has this been a period of work for the change of command, but also for helping the senior class graduate and the incoming class in process. So I know that's a lot of work piled on together, and I want to say thank you for the incredible work. Also, thanks to Julia in particular for that great rendition. It's amazing to hear professional vocalists up here. Thanks for sharing your talent. Father Juan, thank you so much for your invocation. Your blessing on this day, especially in light of what's happened over the last 24 hours, has been very meaningful to my family and me, so thank you. Thank you to Stig, Andrew, Wang, and Sergeant Gomez for your key role in today's ceremony. Mina, I think you're in the audience over there, thank you. And the protocol team, plus the test wing front office, you guys do amazing work. I don't know, what number is this for you in the season? Somewhere in the neighborhood of 10, ballpark? It's incredible work, and we really appreciate it. You guys do phenomenal, outstanding work. I want to thank also the maintenance team, CalSpan, and the facilities team, and everyone else who made this hangar available. I'm told that this is probably the worst hangar to pick for a change of command ceremony, so lesson learned. But thank you all for making it happen in a dynamic environment with the mission still happening. To my fellow group commanders in the audience, thank you for being here. It's an honor to work side by side with you, and I'm looking forward to executing the TPS mission as well as the other test wing missions, your missions as a team. We have several distinguished visitors. Thank you all for being here. Colonel Doyle, Dan, thank you so much. Chief Stolfus, it's great to see you here. We really appreciate your support. To Poco, I'd like to extend a thanks on behalf of the test community for your leadership at TPS. General Higer talked about your pioneering work with the Space Test Course. It's amazing to see the great work that's happening here, extending out to our guardians and the great work that they do in space. And of course, having been a commander here during the COVID period, I know what that was like, and I want to thank you again on behalf of the community for sustaining the mission of continuing to produce test leaders without missing a beat despite those difficulties. So thank you. General Higer, Sir, thank you for your kind words and your charge. Our chance meeting in D.C. was absolutely providential, and I'm honored that as a result of that, you advocated on my behalf. As I'll share in my first commander's call later, this was the one and only place that I wanted to be, and I'm grateful that you trusted me enough to push for me here. I know that TPS has a particular importance for you, and so I will strive every day to earn my place here among the long list of distinguished commandants. We have a lot of friends and family in the audience here, so I want to thank you all, and those also who are watching. Thanks for attending and traveling. Really grateful to have you here and honored and humbled by the love and presence that you're bringing here. To my wife, Natalie, hey dear, and our 5 wonderful children, Grace, Luke, Kiara, Dominic, and Catherine. It's my greatest privilege and blessing to be part of our family. I'm so grateful that we get to work together to serve this test community that we love and call home. Thank you for being my best friends and wise counselors in the days ahead. We have a really great adventure ahead of us. There are a few, maybe more, squadron commanders who are in the audience. I invited many of them and many more who are online. I just want to express a particular word of thanks to you all for your support. You guys are the leaders on the front line of TEST, and you see most clearly what the future of TEST holds for us. You're also the source of our military instructors. And so you're also the first mentors of our graduates. And so in a very particular way, this school belongs to you. And I want to thank you for being here. The faculty and I will be leaning very heavily on your insight and wisdom as we think about what the future of the school looks like. To the TPS faculty and staff, it's truly an honor and a privilege to serve as the school's 46th commandant. Earlier this year under POCO's leadership, you all put out a new mission statement, and it changed from developing highly adaptive critical thinking test professionals to developing highly adaptive critical thinking test leaders. And that one-word change from professional to leader, I think is profoundly important, so I want to dwell on that for just a second. What is a test leader? Well, General Higer set the stage here when he mentioned briefly 1941 and this mindset of competition. And one of our nation's most impactful responses to the attack of Pearl Harbor in 1941 and our competitive response was the Doolittle Raid, which everyone is familiar with. But I also, in case you don't know much of the details, it's also an iconic example of test leadership. So just a few quick details. On April 18th, 1942, it was 4 months after Pearl Harbor, 16 B-25 Mitchell medium-range bombers launched from the deck of the USS Hornet on a one-way mission to strike Tokyo, led by Lieutenant Colonel Jimmy Doolittle. That daring raid, we know, was both an operational and a strategic success. It ultimately forced Japan to retrench its forces and make a disastrous miscalculation in attacking it midway to prevent future attacks on its homeland. And it marked a huge turning point in the war. So testers in the audience know that Jimmy Doolittle was one of the Army Air Corps' first test pilots. He was a pioneer flight test pilot for nearly 10 years, and he served as the head of the test division at McCook Field at Dayton, Ohio for several years. Given his background, it's not that surprising that he was able to accomplish the mission. But what about the other 15 crews on that raid? I'd like to dwell on them for a second. What enabled them to succeed? In early January 1942, right after Pearl Harbor, Hap Arnold picks up the phone and he calls Jimmy Doolittle and he asks him to plan an attack against Japan. This is in person. He calls him to come into the office for a top secret mission, and then he tells him, I want you to strike Japan. Doolittle goes out and he recruits 90 pilots, engineers, bombardiers, navigators from the 17th Bombardment Group in Oregon, and he flies them to Eglin Airfield for 3 weeks. Over the course of those 3 weeks, he led those recruits through a disciplined series of test campaigns, and it's going to astound you when I describe what they did. They modified the B-25 fuel system, effectively doubling its fuel capacity. They replaced the highly classified Norden bomb sight because they were concerned that the aircraft would be lost to the enemy, and they replaced them with a simple unclassified bombing system. They added de-icing boots to the wing leading edges because they knew they'd be flying into Russia and China, where they'd encounter cold weather conditions. And then most importantly, they executed night and day takeoffs to go from 800 feet, takeoff rolls to 300 feet, so it could take off the deck of the USS Hornet, thousands of pounds over the max gross weight of the B-25. None of those crews was a tester. Jimmy Doolittle effectively formed an integrated test team. He led it through a rapid modernization of the fuel system, the weapon system, the de-icing system, and the flight envelope expansion with no casualties, a 100% mission effective rate, and fundamentally changed the course of the war. I submit to you, when we think about the mission of Test Pilot School, creating test leaders, that Jimmy Doolittle's response, that his competitive response to the attack on Pearl Harbor, and forming a cohesive team from a diverse group of non-testers, that's the epitome of test leadership. And if we look at his strengths as a tester, as a leader, a thinker, and a technologist, I think we begin to see the outlines of the standard for all TPS graduates. But importantly, it's just the outline. As General Hiker said, there's a lot of thought and a lot of discussion about the future of the school, and a lot of questions about how that vision becomes reality, and what it looks like day to day here at the school, given the constraints and the challenges and the mission that we have. As I look at the faculty and the staff here, I see some of the world's finest military test leaders, several test luminaries, second to none. And I also see in the background some of our world's finest military talent. If you look at the last 10 years of senior leaders in the test community, you're gonna find a vice chief, you're gonna find combatant commanders, multiple MAGCOM commanders, you're gonna find multiple general officer program executive officers, and that's from a school that produces about 50 graduates a year. No other school has the kind of talent in the student body and the faculty than this hangar, this building, this school right here. And so as I look to the future of the school, as we think about how we take the mission that you have all outlined for yourselves and for this community to create test leaders, as we think about Jimmy Doolittle as our exemplar, as we think about the details of how to make that a reality, there is no other team, no other group of people I would rather be working with, moving forward with, to outline that vision, to give it detail, and to execute it than this team right here. It's truly an honor and a privilege to lead this hallowed institution in its noble mission to create leaders for the test community, and I'm looking forward to working with each and every one of you in the days to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Colonel Valpiani. Colonel Valpiani and Mrs. Valpiani, thank you. The men and women of the Test Pilot School welcome you. Ladies and gentlemen, in keeping with Air Force tradition, please stand and join us in singing the Air Force song, followed by the departure of the official party.